Hello, this is Steve Wyss. I'm joined by Kevin Harper for the latest All Sports Betting Pod Cricket World Cup previews, and a really interesting affair set for Thursday. Australia against Bangladesh at Trent Bridge, and we're at a stage now, Kev, where we have to look at the Cricket World Cup table really, because most teams have played 5 matches. Just India, they're stuck on 4, and it's looking like New Zealand, England, Australia, India are going to be in that top 4 at this point in time. It's Bangladesh are the one team perhaps that can sneak into there, but they're going to have to probably beat either Australia here at Trent Bridge or India later on in the tournament to get in there, you would think. So it's a really big game for Bangladesh, isn't it, here?
Absolutely, Steve. Yeah, I mean, we're both dreaming of this being the final, aren't we? In 3 weeks' time, if this is the final, our bank manager is going to be extremely pleased. In order for that to happen, yeah, like you say, Bangladesh probably going to have to knock off a good side now. South Africa had the Bangladesh train in the palm of their hands, didn't they, on Wednesday, and crashed it for us, which wasn't particularly nice of them. I'm not necessarily suggesting that they can't beat either of these sides. I mean, the good thing is this is the last non-subcontinental side that Bangladesh play, isn't it? I believe so. I think the last 3 is India, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Is that right? So, you know, they're in their comfort zone for their last 3, aren't they? Even as daunting a challenge as what India is. Although maybe it's not as daunting with no Shikhar Dhawan ruled out for the tournament now, which we'll come on to when we do India's next game over the weekend. No reason why they can't, though, is there? Let's be fair. I mean, they've torn apart South Africa. They gave New Zealand a mighty good run for their money, and they beat West Indies fair and square in one of the best run chases you'll ever see, World Cup or non-World Cup. They didn't just chase that down, they battered it. And it's the confident style in which they've done it. I mean, there's been no chases whatsoever in this tournament, has there, of any note? Any team that's had a daunting total, they've almost surrendered before they've got into the run chase. Not Bangladesh. They had a right good go at that. And let's get, 330 with 8 overs to spare against that West Indies bowling attack that's already skittled their opposition top order here. You've got to stand up and respect Bangladesh. I'm hoping the conditions haven't gone against them with that rained-off game against Sri Lanka. We'll find out here. They're going to give Australia a challenge, though. That is one thing that we can absolutely guarantee. They don't back down to nobody this lot.
Australia are about 1 to 5 favourites, in fact, shorter in most places here. So the bookmakers are certainly expecting them to win the game. Just looking at it for them, I mean, if they were to lose this, suddenly there's a little bit of pressure on them as well, isn't there? Because 2 of their last 3 games are against England and New Zealand. So it's no absolute walk in the park for Australia. A lot of people are just kind of presuming this is a gimme for them, but it's not quite as simple as that, is it? Bangladesh, you mentioned, are going to put up a very good fight here. What aspects of their game are going to surprise people who perhaps don't know that much about Bangladesh?
Oh, their batting's just brilliant, isn't it? From 1 to 6, it's just a joy to watch them, isn't it? Tamim Iqbal play, he used to play with a carefree, abandoned freedom, didn't he? But he's kind of reined in a little bit now. And that's the Steve Rhodes effect. I mentioned to you off air during that Bangladesh game the other day that this Bangladesh side, if you scrub the name out and wrote Worcestershire on top, it's a spitting image of the side that Rhodes had at Worcestershire. Saka, a guy that you're a big fan of, he now plays that carefree, play your shots role as an opener. And then you've got the player of the tournament by far for me, number 3 in Shakib. They chased that total down against the West Indies with Mushfiqur not even getting out double figures, didn't they? And then Litton Das, I mean, where he's been hiding, I've no idea. But what a special gem of a knock that was. And they still had Mahmudullah, Mossadegh, Mahdi Hassan, Shaifuddin, who can all bat, and they didn't even need to get pad rash, did they? It was really special. They're a good batting side, this lot, and I think this lot have got the ability and the nous to play out Stark and Cummins. And if there's one thing we've seen from this Australian attack throughout this tournament, if you get rid of them 2, there's an awful lot of scoring options, and they've got an awful lot of batsmen who can take advantage of those scoring options.
I think there's one thing we've seen from Bangladesh in this tournament is very good tactics. They showed it against New Zealand, seeing out Bolt and Henry. Against England, they knew they were probably beaten, but they made sure they got a decent enough score on the board in reply. they're not stupid. I think they've got a very good game plan. You mentioned the coach seems to know what he's doing. So
Captain two, Mortaza, he's a really underrated captain, actually, what he's doing with that young side. Fair play to him. I mean, the bloke can't move, can he? He's got replacements on both knees and replacements on the replacements for both knees. It's, he's a sorry sight, but what he does with that side, fair play to him.
I mean, I'd be surprised if they go out gung-ho against Cummings and Stark, and I think if those two guys are going to get wickets early doors, they're going to have to really earn the right against it. It's at Trent Bridge, this game, which it's already had 3 one-day internationals at this venue in 2019, and by and large, apart from the West Indies-Pakistan game, which we're putting it down to a complete anomaly, I think, aren't we now? It's been a high-scoring ground, and yes, there's been rain in the Midlands recently, but not so much in the last 24 hours. So are you expecting this ground to play pretty well?
Yep, without a doubt. I've mentioned a couple of times, it's the best batting track in the country. See no reason why that's going to be any different now. Maybe it might not be as brilliant as it was, say, in that original England against Pakistan game in the ODI series prior to this tournament. But no reason why 300 won't be a pass score.
All right, so your first bet for the game, you're taking a handicap on Bangladesh. 66.5 wickets, 48.5 runs. For those who don't understand the handicap system of betting, then basically, if Bangladesh were to bat second, they've got to stay within 49 runs of Australia. If Australia are chasing down a total, they've got to take 4 wickets. So, I mean, you've pretty much mentioned why you think Bangladesh are going to be competitive and stay close there. In terms of the betting pick itself, it was pretty self-explanatory for you, Kev.
Yeah, I think it's the 3rd time in the tournament I've taken this bet, isn't it? It won the first 2 times against New Zealand and against South Africa. They actually won the game against South Africa. I'm not ruling out them winning the game here. Cheeky punt at 9-2, 5-1. You could possibly get some mileage with that, but I'm more than happy to have a chunky bet on the handicap. Australia aren't finishing their innings well, are they? I've mentioned this a few times. Khawaja's giving them a bit of a problem. It's unknown if Stoinis is going to be back for this game or not. It'd be a big help for them if he is, just on the options that he creates. But the only time Bangladesh haven't covered a handicap in this tournament was against England, when they ran into Jason Roy up top, and then they ran into a couple of monster innings towards the end, didn't they? Well, they're not likely to run into the monster innings towards the end here because Australia aren't playing them. So as long as they can contain Finch and Warner, and you could bet your bottom dollar Shakib's going to be used in some way, shape or form to try and do that. As long as they can contain them two, no one else is really going to take the game away from them until Glenn Maxwell comes in, are they? Assuming Australia bat first. So, it's hard to see Australia putting up a 350 score here. In which case, if they don't do that, anything 300 or above, more than enough for the handicap to come in.
Would Australia bat first here, potentially?
Would they bat first? Probably not. Probably going to see what we saw throughout this tournament, really. Teams will put the opposition in thinking they might get something out of it with the first 4 or 5 overs, but when they don't, they're in trouble, aren't they? So I'd imagine Australia, I'd imagine both sides will bowl first, although Bangladesh's best chance might be to bat first, scuff the wicket up and get a bit of turn for their 3 spinners. And then going the other way, 4 wickets is all we need. Well, I mean, they're not good players of spin, are they, Australia? They're renowned to be bad players of spin. There's 3 really good spinners in this Bangladesh side that have been taking wickets throughout the tournament. Saifuddin is actually a really under-the-radar bowler, taking 2 wickets at least in every single game, and I'm going to come on to that in a minute. Mr. Fazur is box of tricks, and Mashrafi's going to fall apart at some point, but he's still getting to the crease and getting the ball down there, isn't he? So there's 4 wickets in them. I just don't see Australia making a total that Bangladesh can't get within 50 of.
Okay, so Bangladesh handicap there. Is that Bet365?
Or Betway. Yep, same price either way. You've got a choice there.
Now, my selection for this game, I'm in the fours market again. And I'm going overs this time, over 48.5. because I've said this ground, it's got fairly small dimensions, which is good news for six hitters. But there's not really a lot of six hitters around in these two teams, if you ask me, apart from Dev Maxwell. The rest of them do like to hit it along the deck more. There will be sixes.
Finch as well, isn't there? We should acknowledge that until Owen Morgan went ballistic the other day, Finch was the lead hitter in the tournament.
Yeah.
But in terms of sixes, I've mentioned it a few times here, haven't I? Left-handers are your go-to men. So Shakib, Warner.
There will be sixes, no doubt, because there's one real boundary that's ridiculously short. But if we look at forget the West Indies game, I'm forgetting that one completely. But the three matches in 2019 here contained 62, 60 and 64s each. I mean, I didn't even really go back much further, but that pretty much sums up Trent Bridge for you. Bangladesh, I guess the concern would be that they could get rolled over. Like, we don't think they're going to be. They got 300 odd against South Africa. They got nearly 300 against England. They did well to go out 250 odd against New Zealand, didn't they? Again, that was a heck of a bowling performance against them, and fielding display.
I was going to say fielding as well. They must say 50 runs in the field that day.
And in the four games that they actually played in this tournament, Bangladesh have racked up 32 fours against West Indies, 37 against South Africa, and in the two innings they didn't do so well, got 22 and 21, which is still it's competitive enough. They did that here in Australia, could chip in with just a few more in the late 20s, and this bet would still be a winner. So 48.5 fours. The only danger is if the team that bats first does collapse into a very low score. But I think you could win with this, even if it was like a 260 total, really, Kev. So
you can just give that 21 a bit of context, Steve. It was against England, wasn't it, in Cardiff, where the square boundaries in Cardiff are probably twice the size of any boundary at this ground. So did you say they made 21 there? And you need 24 for a half, don't you? So even then, they were well on course on a ground that's not suitable to boundaries. This one very much is. So, just to give it a bit of context. And as you just mentioned, New Zealand were brilliant with the ball in the other game, but they didn't cover it in. Not just with the ball, but how many you was on the under fours on Wednesday, wasn't you? And they were saving them left, right, and centre. I mean, they must have saved you half a dozen fours in that game. So I dread to think how many they'd have saved in that Bangladesh game at the Oval as well. So
a lot, yeah.
So technically Bangladesh, if they were playing all their games here, they'd have gone over that line all the time.
Bangladesh definitely, the point I'm making, like you reinforce there, they do hit quite a lot of their runs in boundaries. Bangladesh, they're not just nudging nerdlers. They're not big six hitters necessarily, but they do hit a very clean ball.
Well, also as well, I think captains play aggressive fields against them, don't they? Because they think they're going to get them out. And Shakib, Litton Das the other day, I mean, it didn't matter where there was a fielder, they had a shot for it, didn't it? Whether it was the flick over their shoulder, the back away and spank it over extra cover, the flick off their hips. And the good thing about Shakib, and indeed Litton Das, and maybe Tamim, one or two others in this game that will really help you out, and anyone else that's taking runs out there, they play the short ball very, very well. I mean, some of the pull shots Shakib played against West Indies the other day was just mesmerising, wasn't it? It was that was one of the best innings you'll ever see.
Yeah, I very nearly took the runs as well. 58 and 558.5 runs looks low to me on this this match. I'm not saying it's going to be an absolute run feast, but I could easily see 280 against 280, something along those lines anyway. But over 48.5 fours is my pick at Bet365 there. It's a couple of notches lower than 888 Sport. Let's move on to some performances, and I've got to say a very obvious pick here. Okay, it doesn't look like an awful lot of thought is needed here, but sometimes the obvious bets are the best ones. Shakib El Hassan performance line is as low as 51.5, which I've got to say really surprises me the way he's played in this tournament.
He's covered it with the bat in all four innings, hasn't he? And he ain't just covered it with the bat; he's covered it with plenty to spare. Last two innings he's made centuries, hasn't he? I've just mentioned that century he made against West Indies was one of the best World Cup innings I've ever seen. I mean, his innings in this series so far, Steve, 75, 64, 121, 124. So any of them gets this covered. He's also taken 2 wickets against New Zealand, 2 wickets against West Indies. Didn't take any against England, but the damage was done then, wasn't it? And he took one against South Africa as well. So, prior to that, you go to the tri-series that Bangladesh played, 61 not out, 29 and 50. I mean, he's in the form of his life, isn't he, Shakib? I don't even need to mention his bowling because there's every chance he's going to cover this with his batting. But the fact that we've got his bowling, his fielding, and everything else on side, I mean, someone's been at the source, haven't they, putting this lineup.
Best all-rounder in world cricket at the moment, I think, is this guy. So
yeah, I don't think there's anyone anywhere close either.
If
genuine number 3 batsman.
If this was an Indian player, the line would be probably about 70, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, if he was I mentioned this on my website social media feed the other day. If he was an Indian player, he'd be getting the same adulation that Sachin Tendulkar gets. He's an incredible player.
He very much is. So another performance that you like is Shaifuddin.
Yeah, really enjoyed watching this guy bowl, actually, Steve. 31.5, bet 365. I should have mentioned that Shakib one's at Betway. Do shop around for your Shakib lines because your prices and your lines do differ on him, understandably. So, Saifuddin, confident little character, isn't he? Gets that ball and gets it down there at a decent lick. It's his death bowling that's impressed me. He's been firing in them Yorkers for fun, and he's got that kind of Brett Lee celebration, hasn't he, with his arms out in the air, and I'm sure that'll go down well against Australia if he takes the wickets in this game. But he can also hold the bat as well. Showed that against New Zealand with that good innings towards the end of that game. But he's another one that we may not even need him to use the bat. His bowling efforts in this series: 2 for 57 against South Africa, 2 for 41 against New Zealand, 2 for 78 against England, 3 for 72 against the West Indies. Of course, the runs conceded are of no interest to us whatsoever. We just want the wickets, and he's got 9 of them in 4 matches and going very nicely. Go back to that tri-series, 2 for 47, 2 for 43, 0 for 29 in a game where he only bowled 4 overs because of the rain. This guy's bowling well. He's doing it against sides who can supposedly play pace bowling, i.e. England, West Indies, New Zealand and South Africa. There's absolutely no reason why he won't do it against Australia. I mentioned a little bit earlier in this podcast, Australia aren't finishing their innings particularly well. If he's bowling at the tail, or people like Cummins, is probably wrong to call him the tail, but those kind of people, you'd fancy he's going to get one of those Yorkers through. 2 wickets gets the job done. A wicket, a catch, a couple of runs, a wicket and 12 runs. They're all in play. I'm happy to take the over. Been impressed with this guy.
Shaifuddin performance over at Bet 365. Last selection for the game is from you here, Kev, a bigger price. Aaron Finch, man of the match.
Yeah, I mean, I've learnt my lesson a little bit on this ground, Steve, because I was taken to the cleaners in the first game here, wasn't I? When I loaded up every single bet slip on every single market going. And I've kind of done the same here, haven't I? I've got so many fingers in a Bangladesh pie, you'd think I'm at a restaurant. It's it's just a little bit of cover, really. The only person I can see taking the game away from Bangladesh here is Aaron Finch. Maybe Stark might come in with a fifer or something like that by getting rid of the tail or things like that, but that's a risk I'm prepared to take. Aaron Finch was brutal against Sri Lanka the other day, wasn't he? Absolutely majestic. He's looked really good throughout the tournament, hasn't he, when Dave Warner's not running him out. Yeah, he could go big. He could in the same way that Jason Roy did against Bangladesh earlier in the competition. But if he doesn't, I fully expect Bangladesh to be competitive. And if they are competitive, I'm pretty confident my 3 bets come in. So that's just a bit of a saver to get some of the stake back if indeed it does go tits up.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your thoughts on the game, Kev. And we will be back again very soon to preview. We'll watch out for our next match. Previously, it's England are in action, the home of cricket on Friday. So we'll catch
playing at Lords, are they, Steve?
For then. So more on that later. But everyone. So yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that, and we'll be back again very soon.
Pleasure, mate. Look forward to it.